Just one quick bit I wanted to add before the start of this video. This wasn't something I realised until I was going back over it in editing. There's one part of this video near the end, on the last race that I'm showing off, that has some flashing lights. So consider this a little bit of a seizure warning if you have epilepsy. I don't think it's awful, but it's not great. So just be aware of that if that's something you suffer from. Anyway, on to the video. Well, hello everybody. Sadly I couldn't get the little introduction bit to work, but yeah, we're going to be covering a game called Hydro Thunder this week. It's an arcade port, technically this one. It came out in arcades on March, I believe the 3rd of March 1999. Then was later sold on the Dreamcast, the N64, the PlayStation, the other PlayStation, the Xbox, the GameCube, the PC. It's on basically everything, okay? It's a racing game about a not technically legal racing lead that basically will invite you, if you're fast enough with whatever crazy boat you've ended up building yourself, and race in a bunch of places they probably really shouldn't do. Like an apocalyptic New York. Or an ancient tomb. Or Greece. Just Greece. As I mentioned in my last review, I got this game when I was a kid. My uncle wheeled out a bunch of old PC games to play, and I was immediately a fan. The game is fast, bright, and colourful, as you can probably see the bright and colourful bit just from the menu alone. And I was immediately a fan. I like the handling, I like the ships, I like the selection of everything, and they do all play very differently. To start with, you unlock 3 easy tracks right from the start, and 3 easy boats. I'm going to start with Thunder Park. We'll be doing a little bit of a summary of each track. I won't show a full lap of each one, because this will be a pretty long video if I did. The easy boats are generally slower, but still handle quite nicely, and as my brother proved, you can still finish the whole game with them, although it isn't easy. We'll start with the Midway. It's a nice, stable all-rounder of a boat. Now, Hydro Speedway. Might as well talk about this, as this is, well, effectively the game. The tracks themselves are the whole game. There's very few alternate like modes or anything. It's pretty much just racing. Again, it is an arcade port. Controls are pretty simple. You've got an accelerator, a brake, which you will actually use, surprisingly. You can steer, and as you've probably seen, I've got boosters, which do a little transformation animation for the ship, as long as you've got at least sun. The boost charges up when you collect those sort of diamond power-ups with boost written on them. They're complicated, I know. With the blue ones giving you 4 seconds of boost, while the red ones give you 9. Now, these tracks are often stuffed with shortcuts as well that will also often contain boosts, so they're worth going looking for, and in fact you practically need to win some of the harder races. Especially check behind those waterfalls. They like to hide them behind those. This speedway is one of 4 of the game's circuit tracks. So unlike the other tracks in the game, these ones are actually lapped. Missed the boost. And that does mean that yes, the boosts are limited. They don't regenerate each lap, and you can waste them if you pick one up while it's already full. Now, in terms of the track itself, this is not really my favourite. It's basic, but I don't really like the lapped ones. But at the very least, it's like reasonably... Oh, bit of a collision there. Sweet landing, though. It's reasonably fun. You can also see, probably by my handling, that if you boost into a boat, yeah, you send them flying as if you'd crashed into them. So you can also use your boost offensively, and some boats are better at that than others. I believe the Midway is actually reasonably good, because it's quite a heavy and stable one. Winning at least 3rd place in the race, I guess we will at least see the whole of this race, will grant you, effectively will allow you to progress from the easy tracks, as long as you finish at least 3rd at each one. And after each track, as he finishes, you could add in your initials. Yes, I am the almighty TTT. There's also one other little thing to mention with that track, which is try hitting the Banshee if you can. And yes, it is in the air, but we'll get to that in a minute. Next up is the Arctic Circle. And we're going to take out on this track the Misbehave. The Misbehave is canonically built literally from bits of old fighter jet. I think I've timed the boost start first. This game does have a boost start, like in something like, say, Mario Kart. And I believe you have to hit the accelerator the moment it says go. As you can see, the Misbehave's probably best part is that partly that cool little fan, but also, as you can see best on this jump, it glides very well. Ships do have slight differences in their handling characteristics in the air and much more pronounced ones on the water. The Misbehave is another of the sort of type that sort of, as you can maybe see by the fact it's sort of sloping around a bit. The boats actually do feel like they handle differently in the water, and this one kind of skims the surface. There's also probably about time to mention another something since we're in the boat that jumps well, or flies well, I should say. You can actually jump with these ships, and you need this. I should mention you actively need this to finish the game, and if you're like me and my brother and didn't have the manual as a kid, you're going to have trouble with that. Because the game doesn't explicitly tell you anywhere. What you do is you hit the brake, then you tap forwards and jump at the same time, and you can jump. Sorry, penguins. And again, you need this for certain tracks. You also have to deal with, as you can see there from these pirates, there's NPCs on the track sometimes. It's a much larger boats. Well, that's pretty good, though. And yes, as for the track itself, this is one of the good ones, I would say, especially from the easy tracks. It's got a lot going to it. It's one of the tracks that's actually different the whole way through, which I always appreciate. There's the ice slides to go down, including that tunnel that you saw earlier. There's lots of penguins, sharks, apparently. Oh no, killer whales even, I think those are. And I believe, closer to the end, there's also a ship you can go through. Ah, there it is. For a little bit of a shortcut. And there's a lot of little bits like this. A lot of the red boosters, I goofed it, are usually hidden in the shortcut areas, or hard to reach sections of the track at least. Can also show off another mechanic here. The land actually doesn't really stop you, it actually accelerates you quite drastically. So, in fact, there are actually parts in a lot of tracks where you actually want to be sliding across the ground sometimes. Last of the easy tracks, Lost Island, and we're going to be taking Damn the Torpedoes out to talk about this one. This one used to be my little brother's favourite ship, actually. Well, it still is its favourite ship. I don't know much of the backstory for this one. I know a little bit about some of them, because it tells you a bit in the manual, but it does have a really cool fin. It's also nice and stable, reasonably speedy. I think it might be the fastest easy ship, but don't quote me on that. There's no like stats anywhere beyond a little bit that people have worked out online, and it's very stable. Lost Island is, as you can probably see, this cool sort of tropical island track with a quite notable volcano. We'll definitely get to that. And a few very well hidden shortcuts, including ones behind the waterfalls. And this one that I didn't know about for years. You can kind of see the higher section of this shortcut from another part of the track, but you can't actually really reach it from down below. You can kind of grind your way at the waterfall, but you'll lose far more speed than you ever gain. There's also a crashed ship over there that you can ramp off of, if you get your path correct. This little, the tourists, who honestly look like they've got quite the severe suntan. There's another me. Yeah, you do get duplicates of your own ship. I don't know quite how that works. Monkeys. In fact, there he is now on the bridge. We're going to jump over him. And a little ways ahead, an active volcano to jump through. Yeah, this game gets a little mad sometimes. I can kind of see why these ships aren't supposed to be racing where they are. But it's actually got a booster in it, because some of the power-ups are invisible. You just have to sort of hope that there's something there and give it a try, and you'll see. Maybe you'll find something. And we might as well finish off the race for posterity's sake. We're actually going to win this one as well. Yeah, winning's actually quite difficult in this game, as you might have noticed. These are the easy tracks, and I haven't won all of these. You kind of have to be quite on form with the game. With a at least third place win in the first three tracks, you unlock the medium tracks and the medium ships. Start with Lake Powell. I believe this is meant to be in America somewhere. I'm not personally American, I wouldn't say so. And we'll bring out the Banshee. This was the favourite of my uncle, who used to play the game and unlocked a lot of the track for me as kids, which I'm very grateful for him doing that, because I'd never have managed it on my own. I liked this game as a kid, but I was terrible at it. The Banshee is a little bit slippery. It's another surface skimmer, but it is a good all-rounder. It's quite light and agile, and it's got that big old pair of boosters on the back. I think it's also canonically jet-powered. I'm pretty sure that thing in the middle is an engine, although it also does seem to have a propeller on second appearance, so I'm not quite sure. But yes, as you can see, this track varies a bit. It goes from the sort of exterior winding canyons, past the hot air balloon show. It's clearly getting later in the day as well as you enter the caves. And after a bit of winding through the caves, which we'll skip by in editing, of course, and occasionally having to jump to grab a boost rod, like that one that I completely failed to get and always used to confuse me as a child because I could never work out why I couldn't reach it. Oh yes, and here we have another example of, yep, there's always stuff behind the waterfalls, except I think literally one waterfall on this track. Yes, there... which I believe is that one. Go back to KO helicopter. I didn't know you could hit that. I literally have never hit that before. Very nice. We come to my favourite part of this track. We're not slowing down. Oh, you can jump over it. I didn't know you could do that. I've only ever hit it before. And zooming in for that first place finish. Next, we're off to the Mediterranean and Greece in my favourite ship, the Tidal Blade. This was the one... I wasn't too worried about this one as a kid, but upon coming back to this game, it's absolutely become my favourite. Canonically coming in at something like 13,000 horsepower... no, 1,300 horsepower. It is a beefy boy. I think the biggest engine, apparently, in the entire cup. It has just this really nice handling characteristic to it. It slices through the water. It looks like it should, and I can't describe its handling in any way other than it actually does feel like it looks like it should. It's very stable, it's fast, it's agile. You could win the game in this one with no trouble if you don't do stupid things like that and crash into the wall. Greece itself, yeah, is this sort of multi-layered track with a lot of canals. I don't believe real Greece is like this, but then again, I've never been. You never know. And it's one I used to really like as a kid. It was kind of the only track I used to be able to win with any reliability. Not knowing about the boost jump, this is one of the few tracks where even if you don't, you can kind of win it without that. And it has some extremely high speed sections and cool shortcuts. Yeah, we'll just roar over the top of them. Like, for example, this one that I used to think you had to just sort of muscle up, but turns out no, it's another place where you should jump. Where you can scoot down this water-filled tunnel. Past the big old Colosso here and grab a little boost. There's also this nastily positioned one here where you have to jump pretty much straight after going through the gap. Again, as mentioned, this is very much... I feel like this is more Roman with these aqueducts. Ah, yes, and the other big part of this track, the finale. So it's also shorter than I remember. And yes, of course, one of the best parts, the flying finish past the dolphins. And we'll even skim the jump. Or skim the ending, I should say. Perhaps I spoke too soon when I said this video wouldn't be a showcase of each of the tracks entirely, although I may end up skipping some more of the multi-lap ones, like second laps later on. But anyway, next we're off to China, or, well, they call it the Far East. It's clearly meant to be China, and we'll bring the Thresher for this one. The Thresher is a boat I don't use very much. And it's maybe not much to look at, but it's got some interesting characteristics to it. I think it's the biggest non-bonus boat. It's certainly the heaviest by a long shot. It is extremely stable. It's basically impossible, as you can see. Like, the other ships are hitting me quite hard, but they're really not pushing me around much. The booster is just a simple little thing that comes out the top. And handling-wise, it kind of... It feels a little bit like it's riding on top of the water. I don't know really how to put it beyond that, but that's kind of how it feels. Oh, the local's getting beaten up. And yes, as you can see, this track is sort of a bit of a trip through a palace, a bit of the outskirts. It's kind of one that was very forgettable to me as a kid, and I don't really have the same connection with this one I have with some of the others. I still played it. I played all of them, but this is more sort of one of the tracks to me that's always just sort of been there. It's not bad, it's just not great. There's certainly worse tracks in the game, though. You might notice they did check some nice little details into the game. The patrol boat there is actually speaking in what I at least assume is Chinese. I'm not a Chinese speaker, of course, but we can manage the long jump here. Ah, yeah, that's a really difficult shortcut to reach, but you absolutely go flying over the land for a bit, and it is a big position skip. There are a few memorable bits to this track, though. Aside from the palace, there is also, I believe, coming around the corner, another corner. Not the bit I thought it was. I think we're nearly there. Yeah, here we go. When you head to the festival bit. Aside from a lot more sharp turns, I remember. There he is. There's the dragon. I think you can jump through that. Nope. I'm remembering totally wrong. I think it's this one. There you go. Another hidden booster, although that was probably not the best way to collect it. A lot of the time, they'll also offer you little bits like that towards the end of the race with a boost and a ramp. I'm genuinely not sure what to suggest in terms of what you go for there. It's probably just up to you. Now, that wouldn't have been a good enough position to progress me normally, but it doesn't matter. As you can see, I've already unlocked all the tracks. However, should you unlock all the track, or finish second at least in each of the medium tracks, you don't have to go back to the easy ones, you just have to finish second in the 3 mediums. You'll unlock, as the game says, the hard tracks. We're going to start with my favourite track in the game, Ship Graveyard. I also like this little detail with the hard boats. He's not entirely wrong. These 3 may be the fastest in the game, but they are hard to handle, especially the Razorback. We're going to start with the Cutthroat for this one. As you can see, this track takes place at a very large ship. I think Breaker's Yard is the right term for it, or, well, graveyard. You're sort of racing around all these wrecks and things. There's submarines later on. You race through the hulls of some much larger ships. The Cutthroat is another one of the sort of slippery surface rider ships, although it's reasonably stable at least. With those sort of, as you can see, sort of flare petal boosters. It's very light and very agile, almost a little bit too much so, and it's another aircraft, another boat that's a good flyer. This one handles nicely in the air. It can be a little bit tricky to keep it going the direction you want, but it will go there quickly at the very least. I don't know why this one was the one that spoke to me so much when I was younger, but I think it's the visuals. Just these huge wrecks, like, I think much bigger than the real thing would be, but it just has this really cool look to it, sort of dark theme. That boost that I could never work out how to get, because again, it's another one you need to jump, although you need to time that one very precisely or you'll miss it. Ah yes, the carrier flight deck as well, where you can ramp off some of the aircraft wings. Leading to the very big drop. It actually has different dialogue for that drop as well. My favourite being the, oh boy, this one's gonna hurt. And again, more secrets. Race underneath the PT boat. There's also it's another bit I remember, the Storm Cloud section, where the waves are a lot rougher. But as you can see, if you pick up enough speed, you can just zoom straight through it. The Shipwreck, which has a red boost hidden behind it, but I don't recommend you go for it. And coming up on the last section of the track, one last jump. But we're still going to lose this one. It's very hard, this track, to actually win, which you have to unlock the bonus tracks. But man, does it feel satisfying if you can. Next, we're up to the one that eternally stumped me when I was younger, because while my uncle had been able to beat the other 2 for me, this one I never could, and neither could he. That's because you have to use the jump at a certain section. We're going to take out the UFO for this one. Venice Canals is another one of these tracks with a lot of very sharp turns, a lot of 90-degree bits, and again, a lot of sections where well-hidden shortcuts, such as, I believe there's one on the left here somewhere, maybe I'm remembering wrong, and a few bits like that boost up there, where you almost have to boost to get, you definitely have to jump to get it, but you almost have to be able to jump to even do well on this track, let alone win. You have to jump at certain parts of this track, or you literally, as far as I could tell, cannot do it. The track itself is not my favourite. It's a bit winding. There's a lot going on and a lot to keep track of. That's the section where you have to jump. You have to dodge that little S-bend, as you can see on the map. And I believe some of that land you can jump over, although I guess not that section. It might be this one. The Red Hazard is a bit of a chaotic boat, as you can probably tell. Canonically nuclear, literally, so probably by far the most illegal ship out of all the ones here. Here's the shortcut I was looking for earlier. I'm not exactly sure what this thing is running on. Most nuclear reactors don't do that. Even if you do, just expose them directly to the air. So hopefully we're not causing like permanent health troubles to everyone standing behind us, but frankly with this one, who knows? And I don't really like the way it handles, but I love the way it looks. I love the concept. It's a lot of fun. I'm just not very good with it. It absolutely slides like crazy. It's by far the slipperiest boat. There's also a sort of secret hidden at chandelier and down here. As you can see, I'm really struggling to keep this one going straight. Also the red shortcut hidden down there, or... Sorry. The Pope's not going to be happy about me for that one. Happy with me for that one. And across the line for calm 6th place. Yeah, this one's not easy. I spent a lot of time, unfortunately, as a small child trying to beat this one, and I never did. Well, I obviously did when I was older, but... Right. On to the last hard one, and another one of my favourite tracks, New York Disaster. I think this used to be a bonus track in some of the earlier versions of the game, and I believe one of the bonus tracks is missing. We're going to take out the hardest drive ship. Maybe, actually. There's one that some people might struggle with more because it's weird handling. The Razorback is super rear heavy and unstable, but it is the fastest ship in the game, I'm pretty sure, bar none. In terms of raw speed, there's nothing that can match it. It's also pretty cool looking. I love the triple extra motors. I love the... Well, yeah, you can see a bit of the weird handling coming in as it sort of swings about. It's like... The best way I could describe it is it's extremely rear heavy and swingy. It doesn't like to keep going in a straight line. Even the manual mentions that the boat was originally considered a write-off until one driver worked out the trick to handling it. I'm not exactly sure what that trick is, if that's nodding to some actual in-game technique for using it. But it's still a viable choice. It's just one where you have to accept that you're going to lose a bit of fine control in exchange for the speed. A lot of the time that is worth it, though. You'll notice I'm third already. Yeah, that's one of my favourite bits of the track, is that huge crater. I really like that bit. Also this guy. I didn't realise his dialogue looped if you kept hearing long enough. But yes, I really like that guy. Just setting about his dialogue and everything. And, like, he was kind of the first clue that I had as a kid, because, again, we didn't have the manual that explicitly explained this, that these boats are not where they're supposed to be. And it turns out, no, they're very much not supposed to be. The racing league pretty much just goes, we're having a race here. If you're one of the contestants who's built a boat fast enough to, like, compete, or is just generally proven he's fast enough, they'll basically invite you, and it's up to you whether you want to show up or not. That's not bad, considering. See what I mean about the thing's speed? It is seriously fast if you can actually keep it under control. Now, we're on to the bonus tracks, which I never saw as a child. And unfortunately, most of them are a little bit disappointing compared to the other tracks in game, with one exception being the last one. But we'll get to that. First of all is the Catacombs. And while I'm not so keen on the track, and you unlock the tracks one at a time with the bonus tracks, unlike the others, you have to win each bonus track in order to unlock the next one. I do really like the boat you unlock for it. The Tiny Tannic. I don't think I need to explain much more of this. Look at the size of this thing compared to the Banshee next to it. Also, look at the way it handles. It kind of... Originally, I used... Oh, yeah, the booster's great as well. Yeah, it just folds down a funnel. Originally, I used to think this thing steered from the rear like a normal ship. And I kind of still do, but... It almost swings out too far? Maybe like it's like all the weight's concentrated in the nose of the ship, or the bow of the ship, I suppose. Yeah. Catacombs itself is, unfortunately, though, a bit of a boring track. There are a few shortcuts, like this one, which you'll notice you can't at all see from the outside, which makes it a heck of a one to fight, to realise you've got to take to win, because this is another hard one, although, strangely enough, I seem to be in third already. I'm not sure what's going on there. And it's another lap track, so as you can see by the fact that one's ghosted out, in fact 3 of these bonus tracks are lap tracks, the boosts don't come back, so if you use them, well, you'd better be sure you're going to get the most out of it, because you're not going to have another one the next lap. They do hide some boosters off the... Or they do put some boosters not on the shortcuts. So sometimes it's best to actually, on some laps, not take the shortcuts and go for the boost. The one thing I do like with the Tiny Titanic is you can probably see there, and I'll try and show it off with this down the torpedoes if I can catch him. Because the back swings out so far, and because you can smack people around with a boost, you can kind of slap people with this boat. Hey! Which makes it by far the funniest to me. But yes, we'll leave that one here because Catacombs, you've already seen it. It's kind of a boring track. I'm not really a fan. It's there, it's not the worst because that one's still yet to come. But it's probably like second worst just for being a bit boring. It's just a cave. Now, Castle Von Dandy. And the next boat we unlock, which is another one of the bonus ones I actually like. I like most of them. It's just the last one that I'm not keen on out of all the ships. Yeah, you've got your own little patrol boat. It's another very large one compared to some of the others, although not quite as big. I think this might be one of the heaviest feeling ships in the game. Like the well, maybe not compared to the Tiny Titanic. This one has handling, but it feels sluggish. It's also got the little machine gun guy, as you can see, which I always thought was a cute detail, although no, he doesn't actually do any damage. Oh yes, and the sirens go when you run the booster. The castle itself is a track, yeah, of a lot of little bits you have to do like that to keep up, and some slightly awkward shortcuts, such as this one, which doesn't look too bad, but it can be difficult to pull that one off consistently, and you maybe need to? I'm not so sure. I definitely wasted too much boost here. There's not too much to say about this one. I like the layout. This little ring around a castle, but it's another circuit track, and I really prefer the ones that aren't. There's also this boost if I can hit it. No, you can, if you can smash that bell, which is a little difficult because the arm response is not the best jumper. It's not terrible, but it doesn't fly great. It is quite heavy. I believe that bell has probably I think it's a 9-second shortcut in it. There, I think that's all I need to sum this one up. Now, probably the worst track in the game, and it's not because I don't like it, it's just because it's the one I remember least by a long shot. This is very much one I just cleared and forgot about. We're going to take the Blowfish out for this one, which is, again, a related one. And yeah, as you can see, it's a hovercraft. You know what, I maybe take back what I said earlier about the Tiny Titanic being the biggest ship. I'm starting to think this might be. It's very wide. Nothing much to say about the ship's design. It's a hovercraft. Well, actually, there is one thing, as you can probably see. In fact, there's a lot of things. Why am I saying there's not much to talk about with the ship's design? Of course there is. As you can see, the handling's kind of trash. It can turn really well, because you can kind of turn before you even arrive at the corner and then use the boost to turn around. The downside is, it really doesn't like to change direction. You kind of have to use the boost to turn this thing. It will change direction, but like a real hovercraft, it really slides across the surface. But as you also said, it can also slide across the top of other ships, which is kind of useful, actually. In tight scrums, you can kind of just phase through them, especially if you boost. In fact, it looks like it doesn't really even kick other ships about if it doesn't collide properly with them. I think it even just slides over the top. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but as you can see, there's really not much to say about this track. It's just a circuit. I really just don't remember much about this one. You can skim over these, I believe? No. No, you can't. I thought you could. Maybe it's that second one. But yeah, Hydro Speedway, it's there. Don't really care. But we go from the worst track to one of the best. And unfortunately, my least favourite boat, a Chumdinger. It's funny, I suppose. It's a little like guy in his little fishing boat. I can't deny it's at least kind of cute, but I'm not a fan of that dog. I'm not a fan of that type of dog anyway, but I'm also not a big dog person, so I really don't care for that detail. I suppose it's cute. The booster is at least funny. Because, yeah, it's that. I'll admit that that's at least fun. Handling-wise, there's, like, nothing to say about this boat. I guess it feels... if anything, it feels a little unresponsive to turning. It feels like it, takes a moment to start turning, which is a little strange. Otherwise, it's sort of generic. Feels like most of the other boats in the game. I suppose it's cute for the joke factor, but I really don't care for it beyond that. The track, on the other hand, I very much like. There's a lot going on here. Things like this, that aerial route that you could take if you could jump it. For some reason, it didn't want to jump there. The jumping is something I've never really felt I've got 100% down. It feels like there are nuances to it, but I've never quite got it. I don't know if that's because it's designed for, I believe the arcade console had a big, like, proper ship's throttle. So I don't know if it's designed for the sort of response on that, and it doesn't quite work with keyboard. I don't know. The keyboard port does, the PC port does appear to be pretty bug-free overall. It seems to all work perfectly fine. I can't speak for the other versions of the game, but there is an updated, well, not an updated version. There is a sequel to this game called Hydro Thunder Hurricane that's out on the, I believe, the Xbox something 360 one maybe, and onwards, and the Microsoft Store. That has always looked like a lot of fun. It really does look like a genuinely just upgraded version of the game, bit more modern everything. Never played it. I've wanted to, but I've never been able to get it working on my thing. I've had some troubles with the Windows Store. There's also a hidden shortcut here. If you can make that jump and then skim it. Hey, I almost never make that. Yeah, very tricky to make normally hidden shortcut. And you have to jump that last sarcophagus to get this. There's also some weird stuff going on in this track. Like, what is going on here? Is this a wormhole? Like, where are we? And even more so coming up in the next chamber. If I ever reach it, because I lost a ton of speed there for some reason. Oh no, this is the whirlpool. I forgot. There's one more big chamber. But yes, I love the sort of adventure feel. This, yeah, look at this. Some weird stuff going on here. These are the ones you can jump. If you don't apparently fudge the controls like me. Twice in a row. Can we make it? Can we make it a hat trick? Hey, no, we got it eventually. But yes, I love the sort of adventure feel on this track. I wish the dog would shut up. He's barking constantly at the other ships. Oh dear. It's also one of the longest tracks, I think. It might even be the longest track. Here we go. The last weird thing. Don't mind the ancient monster. Oh jeez, and the laser fingers. Yo, give me a boost. Oh, I thought he gave you a heads. He gave you a heads up. He sometimes sort of catapults you into the air. I don't know why he didn't do that this time. And there we are, at the foot of the Sphinx. And that's about it. You've really kind of seen all of the game at this point. Finishing the last track, bonus track on first, doesn't actually unlock anything. You have seen the whole game at this point, basically. I know it's not a huge game, and it's very much an arcade game. But I have a lot of fun with this game, even to this day. I'll still occasionally come back and play it. And it still runs well on most things as a key detail. Oh, pun. Even on modern machines, this is still not... It might, like, what do you call it, temporarily adjust the resolution on your computer, which is a little bit of a pain if you're trying to alt-tab, or if, in my case, you're trying to record. But this one was not as bad as the previous game anyway. And again, I still recommend it. It is a bit hard to get a copy of. I'll probably link in the description, while I would normally link to the game, like somewhere you could buy it. I'll probably link to Hydro Thunder Hurricane, maybe, if I can get a link to that. And I've also got my own game. People who've watched a few videos on the channel will already be aware, but I am a games dev myself. And my first fully released game, IOC, is out on Steam, so maybe check that one out. It's like being the fire service for space debris. You're sort of chasing down dangerous debris before it falls to Earth and causes a problem, shall we say. That's it for this week. I genuinely have no idea what I'll be reviewing next week, but I hope to see you there.